Good afternoon, everybody. We are so happy to see our large audience joining us this afternoon. Hi, Ryan, LZ, Leah, everyone who said hello to us in the sidebar. Welcome. We are so excited to bring you Chris today, all the way from Atlanta, Georgia. And of course, Jay, out of box thinking. Chris is going to take us to another level today. If you're talking about street cred for recruiting, Chris has it with over 30 years of experience in some of the best firms in the world. But I'm going to leave this over to Jane and to Chris, and I will see you in the socials. Please fill out our polls. They're going to be awesome. Bye.
Bye, Jen. So Jen leaves us. So if anyone is new to us today and wants to know where Jennifer is, you'll see her in the chat box. And if you have any technical problems, just flag her. But she'll be the one coming up with our polls, with our questions. And if there's a number of them, then she'll probably pop up on the screen and just alert us to those. But Chris, Jen started to introduce you. I mean, we are so excited to host you today.
Oh, I'm so good to be here. I'm excited. Wait.
You are one of my lights of lockdown, if I can just say. So Jennifer and I started a Touch Base Facebook group just to kind of talk about relevant topics in the industry. Right. She's from Silver 17 Consulting. I'm from Out of Box Thinking. And together we just thought, let's start some webinars just to support our clients during this time. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I've loved during this time is meeting new people and having virtual coffee dates. And when I met with you, I just thought, oh, this is what we need to hear. This is what the South African recruiters are asking for, the talent acquisition specialists. Mm-hmm. So many of my clients are saying, you know, what do I do? How do I add value? External recruiters are saying, how do I keep adding value to my clients? Internal ones are saying, people might let us go. How do we keep adding value in our jobs? And just when I heard the things that you share and the things you've done to make sure you add value to your clients, I thought, how valuable. Can't wait to share this.
Yes.
So, Chris, maybe you can start off just by, you know, Jen alluded to it, but just give us a little bit of a career history in terms of where you've worked and your journey in the talent acquisition and recruitment space.
Thanks, Jane. It's been a whirlwind. I've had a hybrid background experience where I've mixed HR with entrepreneurship. So I've been in both worlds, and I've seen it from an operations side, I've seen it from client management side, as well as in HR, and working and collaborating with various operational teams, including your finance and procurement and operations groups, technology, and it's just been a blend of many experiences. But the first 10 years, I started off in HR, building my way through management from a manager to basically a director level, and then opening up a series of businesses and consulting firms. So I would say the first 10 years, I really focused on working and understanding multiple business units, what really made them critical to the organization, what type of return were they bringing to the organization, what their value was first. So I focus more in that and understanding the business. As most people go in and trying to learn the business, I took it a little step further. I'm a little geeky that way. But I tried to understand what their pain points were and what good to them was and what was a really bad day and what kept them up thinking at night. Those things became important to me in HR. And as I started working on major projects like call center workforce planning or any type of resource allocation, total rewards programs, or even doing like audits. Oh, I hate audits. But compliance issues you have to deal with in HR and the employer relations and coaching and mentoring you have to do in order to really bring the culture to a certain behavioral aspect that your C-suite executives would like in order to provide good services and quality and bring out great products, build that innovation, and then, of course, dominate their industry. And is kind of where in talent acquisition, I started making my transition. So I was like, where I can make an impact is really at the front end. But it ended up not even being the front end. You realize that everybody is a candidate, from your CEO on down. And your relationship with them is so critical. You have to be able to talk to every one of those levels. Even our recruiting coordinators are very involved in sharing and also influencing those leaders. So it's not at a specific level and you have to build your way up to have an impact from a leadership and influence perspective. You can do that now in whatever role you're in, especially in talent acquisition, because we are in so many spaces within the business.
That's true. I love that about talent acquisition. There really is
Yes.
a myriad of roles and levels that you need to be involved in and need to be able to engage confidently in.
Absolutely.
So it's almost thrown into the deep end of, I may not even feel like I'm ready to deal with these people, but here I am.
Yes.
So what are some of the companies you've dealt with, Chris, and some of the places that you feel you've really made an impact?
I think in my first role, I didn't even graduate college yet. I started at Beth Israel Hospital in Boston. That's where I'm originally from. And I worked in the OD department. We were like an internal consulting group to implement Deming principles, which they wanted to go towards participative management, team delivery. So new. It was like so new back in the 90s, let's say. And we were able to become like a Harvard business case study, really looking at, how do we get teams to work on mission critical business objectives, meet those, come up with really creative and innovative solutions, be able to go through a discovery phase, test and pilot phase, all the way through implementation, and then look at the type of financial gain that we receive at the end. So my first introduction into like the corporate organizations was in healthcare, and you're open to everything. And I was able to take our experiences and share knowledge and travel across the United States. Now here I am, maybe 2021, and that was the level of responsibility I had at that time. And then I moved to Atlanta and I built out my experiences, like I said, in HR. And working with vendors, working with immigration as I moved into technology and really specialized in the technology space, I started to look at what do technologists need in order to relate to the business, because they were kind of the second stepchild in a business organization. So it's funny how now it's shifted totally to be at the forefront today. And it happened in a series of manners, especially from an HR perspective. So in talent acquisition, you end up doing things like process re-engineering, looking at all of the systems and tools that help support the organization. At any given time, you'll have a leader ask about, what is my head count? We have a gap in skills, and you have to identify the types of tools and solutions. And you're saying TA recruiter. I'm not talking about I'm the senior vice president of HR or TA. At your level, you'll have line managers, or depending on your relationship with the C-suite, asking you questions. And you have to have the experience and the technical aptitude, as well as the information ready at hand to answer those questions as best as you can. And then share with your teams on how to build credibility with a business and joining them and meeting those needs.
Sure. So you started off there and now you're with Macy's.
Yes.
Macy's we associate with beautiful things.
Yes, the magic of Macy's. I'm surprised I didn't white and black today, but I was just like, I didn't want to be too corny. I just wanted to focus on acquisition. I won't like push Macy's brand, but it really is magical in a sense of, especially in technology, the technology spaces, which is where I'm at. And I work on an enterprise level doing like a myriad of program delivery to the business. And it's been expanded into working across multiple Macy's entities. So I could be working with the marketing teams. I could be working with the logistics teams. And these teams are huge. I mean, you're talking millions of transactions per second. You're talking about multiple core business areas that require like these common services, which means what do they all have in common? There's search, there's inventory. When I look at furniture, for an example, we call it big ticket. They have to go through a common service that everyone utilizes to get information. So it could be anything from inventory to purchasing, etc., pricing, and then they have to share that knowledge to the other parts of the business that have specific domains, like they're specific in item management, or they're specific to delivery and logistics. And so in technology, you have to be able to deliver that type of information so that they can quickly acquire customers, build in loyalty, and share ROI with shareholders. And so in TA, we're talking, here's a TA person trying to influence all those areas, because we working with internal mobility, moving people from different areas of the business into those spots. Then you have the external recruitment, which is finding the talent and bringing them in, getting them up to speed with the culture, making sure that there's a fit, and then having them be very effective in what they do, and having the checkpoints to ensure that the quality of hire really is impactful to the organization. Yeah,
so
a lot of
I
stuff
think
now.
something that's but something. It's amazing how involved you get with the business and how much you understand and know about your client and what's important to them. I love what you said in the beginning around understanding their pain points, always having that mindset of what is good for them.
Yes.
But something that you said now, Chris, really stood out to me, where you said as a TA person, you're looking to influence the business. Because typically what we've seen in our industry here, maybe in South Africa, is most of the teams that I train, when I train internal talent acquisition, their cry is, how do we become influencers? Because the business has always treated us as find us this or find us that. How now, especially, how do we transition into people viewing us as a role that really adds value? Because so many people feel like they're seen as, I'm just part of the process. I'm just someone who gets told to go and find someone. So tell us more about how you add value as an influencer from a TA perspective. What do you do differently to establish yourself like that?
Man, in talent acquisition, you have such magical powers of influence. You become this talent ninja because one thing that you are introduced to, you have to know your business because you're sharing that with the world. And they have to understand your culture, where you fit in the scheme of growth and opportunities. How do we trust your brand? Remember, in Macy's, we're a retail company. So our customers are our candidates, and our candidates are our customers, all the way around. And so as a talent acquisition specialist, you are making decisions in your relationships with not only clients, like your internal hiring managers, but then also with candidates in the community. So you're going even beyond. So if you think about in technology, which is a very difficult niche and skill, and there's very little of the expertise out there, you have to really go where they are and find out where are they showing up and finding your way to those places. For us in TA, we're looking at setting up meetups at our organization, sponsoring association meetings where they come to us, they register in our systems automatically, so we get all of that intel up front. We're able to pinpoint people as they come in for those meetups to key leaders within our business because of our relationship with those leaders. And so we are directing top talent two areas where they have firsthand conversations with our CEO, someone in our e-commerce area working on mobility solutions. So they get firsthand relationships, and they appreciate that. They trust us, and we're building that trust so that as we get that information, I can call on that particular candidate that's at a competitor and say, hey, you came to our meetup. Let's talk further. Where are you at in your career? Is this the time in which you need to make a change? You saw what we've done as far as in the business and where we're heading. Is that something you want to do and see yourself spearheading some of these initiatives? And 9 to 10, you're making that connection very quickly. And it happens both ways. You're talking to your internal hiring managers and you're saying, okay, you have this gap. Let's look at your team. So let's start from the beginning, because I think that will help. You get a right? The rec gives you kind of the job description that is budgeted. You learn that they have a number of openings. It may be one, and it's for a specific business area. You may get a job description. So it gives you some very generic information about that job. It gives you kind of the skills needed, the qualifications, as well as a general overview of the essential functions to do the job. What that means to a talent acquisition specialist is that you take that information and you're going to use your talent insights. And what do I mean by talent insights? You have LinkedIn. If you're on LinkedIn, if you haven't, you need to get LinkedIn or get access to it. And if not, I could, teach you some tricks around Google so that you can get some information for free. That's always the fun part, is when you're like, I can actually get this information for free and get into these and get the type of talent that you're looking for to fill that need. Before you go in to meet with your hiring manager, really kind of understand what it is that they're looking for, you are going to do a couple of key things beforehand. You're going to have a recruitment intake meeting, what I call a recruiting SLA, service level agreement. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to look at those skill sets and you're going to bench it. You're going to go ahead and pull 3 to 5 what I call resumes or profiles, let's say from LinkedIn, based on the key criteria. And you're only looking at 3 to 5 bullets within the qualifications and essential functions to kind of build out that profile. At the same time, you're looking internal to that person's team. You're asking questions, or at least trying to connect the dots on who are they depending on? Like, what other business units do they depend on, and what do they deliver to them, and what do those teams deliver to that functional area? So all this is happening beforehand, before you say, okay, I'll meet you tomorrow at 5:30 or 4:30 or whatever the time is. You're trying to build all this information up. The other thing that you're doing, LinkedIn has a plethora of talent insights. You now can put in that Boolean string, have it pull up the types of candidates, but it can also pull up the competitors. It will also pull up all the different levels these candidates, as far as the positions and and their history. So you can start to identify and level set, here's where my business is at. This is what this candidate has done. I'm going to start pipelining these candidates and curating my talent before I speak to this hiring manager. So you're going to prepare ahead of time. When you set up that meeting, you meet with that hiring manager, you're going to go through a series of questions. You will send some questions beforehand so that they're ready. Now, 9 times out of 10, they might not read it, but you want them to say, I'm prepared to have a meeting. We're specific. We got 30 minutes. Usually I try to end it around 15, but you want key information. You want to know how many, who is their top or their right-hand person doing this job very well, so you can benchmark that expectation. You want to know what is the gap on that team. You also want to learn, how is this interview process going to look? And you, as a TA specialist, you're going to influence the way this is going to go. Because they might say, I want about 10 people. No, we're keeping it to 4. You're going to give them the reasons why you have to have 4 or less. Making sure that it is a diverse panel, because you're looking for a diverse pool. The reason why we look for diversity, because it provides innovation. It's not about ethnicities, it's about inclusion. getting diversity ideas and thoughts to solve a problem. That's what's important. And that's what you're going to share with that hiring manager, is how to bring in diversity into the organization so that they look good at the end. They're managing all these ideas, all these solutions, and they're putting out a product that's going to impact the organization's return on investment. Remember, your candidates are looking for economic growth. Your hiring manager is helping to have an impact to our economic growth. So it's a win-win. You're just the mediator in between to make sure those things happen.
Yes.
So your intake meeting. Once you go through that intake meeting, you gather all that intel, you're going to go into sourcing. Sourcing, these days, you have a lot of AI solutions and tools out there that will provide you different types of information to really look at a candidate summary. They're now giving you things like the candidate information, so you can call that candidate immediately, email that candidate, chat with them. Now that we have virtual collaboration tools, you can use those immediately and connect with that candidate and start building that relationship firsthand. And learning about what it is that they're looking for, what do they need, what does your company bring to them and help them grow within your organization? What type of work-life balance is going to be provided for them if they do join you? So if you have someone who's traveling 100% in a consulting firm and they're at a certain stage in life, you now can say, oh, well, if you come to Macy's, look, your travel is zero. And you get to go home at 5:30, 6:30, depending on the projects and what's needed from a business requirement. But overall, you will be able to get work-life balance and be able to sell that and share with them what those selling points are. So that value proposition is built in. That's something that you are interacting with the hiring manager to make sure you get what those selling points are so that you know what is going to be attractive to the candidates. So you and that hiring manager are partnered from beginning to end. You're going to set up the communication time periods. You're going to meet weekly, maybe a couple of times in the week in the beginning, just to make sure the bench that you set is exactly what they need. Within 2 weeks of meeting with the hiring manager, you should be churning over candidates that go through the interview process. And you're like, okay, that could be difficult, but you got to give yourself 2 to 3 days. That's why you do the work ahead of time so that you can hone in, because they're looking at that first 3 to 5 candidates that you sent. Telling you, yes, I like this. You're asking them, why do you like this candidate? What don't you like about this candidate? What should I be asking this candidate? And that's how you build out your matrix of questions as you start interviewing the candidates and screening them. There may be assessments that go along the way. You want to get all that data to share with the hiring manager, say, this candidate is viable to go through an interview process. You've got the interview teams, you've got a manager that says yes, and you go through the interview process, and you are really sharing with the candidates insights and preparing them for that interview. You're also sharing with the hiring manager and the interview teams to make sure they are ready. So you have to have interview readiness so that everyone will be able to learn about each other and come out of that with good thoughts and insights, so that when they talk to you as a recruiter, they should be able to share and have good dialogue with you on both ends.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love what you're saying, Chris, about, so you've got the kind of process flow, but you're saying that initial meeting with that manager is so important, and so important that you show up prepared with intel that is additional to what the manager would expect. So you're not just coming to ask questions. You're coming having researched to share information around benchmarks, around competitors, around other potential candidates. You've already got some potential candidates that you're saying, is this the line of sight that we have? Are these the types of people you'd consider? So I like that proactivity. And I like that confidence of, I am partnering with you, and I expect us to collaborate, and I expect us to communicate on an ongoing business throughout this process. So I'm wondering whether there are times, so that's been an example of where a manager has called you and said, okay, let's initiate this process. Are there times where you have initiated the process with the manager, where you've identified a gap and called them and said, okay, have you about this? So maybe you can tell us a little bit about that. Have you, yeah?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, one thing about that's what's so unique and why I'm so passionate about TA, because you learn about all the business, all the good, bad, and ugly, and some of the things that are skeletal in the closet. You have a relationship with your HR business partners, your compensation teams, other teams. So they're sharing information with you all the time, and you're negotiating with them on what you would like to do as far as working with those managers. They're already giving you insight. Okay, when you meet with a Joe X, this is what his temperament is like. You're like, oh, okay, because they're meeting with them all the time on employee relations issues, organizational design issues, restructuring. So you're getting intel ahead of time. And when you have a hiring manager and you know there is a gap, let's say the gap is they don't have strong leaders to go through a succession plan. So if anything happens, someone gets hit by the beer truck, they don't have anyone to move forward and continue on with the project and make business still happen. So you have the insight and all this key information that will help that manager. So you, one, know how to go in to talk to that manager. You know, I always say schmooze and reassure these managers and share with them what you're learning. You don't have to say, well, you know, the HR business partner told me that you had these issues. You need to know from a business perspective. And so you're always coming to them from a business perspective. And you'll learn from them. You'll share with them and ask them, what are your top projects that you're working on? How critical are they to the business? What is it that you believe is a gap in the organization? And how does that impact your team? That's when they give you the information you need to go, okay, I already knew he had challenges. Now he's validating it with me. And so now I'm going to share my solution to his problem with people, because people are the ones who solve problems. You know, we have tools, we have technology, we have various data insights, all that's there, but it can't happen until people make it happen. And so that's your brokerage, your leverage to broker those data points with that hiring manager so that he sees you differently. And that's what you want. You want them to ultimately invite you to the table because you're helping them confirm and validate their gaps. And so when you're questioning them a certain way, they know you're not here just to fill an order. You really want to understand their business. And you know, you have difficult managers. Some of them don't give you anything. You find out who their right-hand people are and all their interdependent business units that help support their product or their service, and you will get the information. So he or she can be like kind of closed lip. You will be able to just come in and just share information. I was talking with so-and-so, their challenges on this project, XYZ. I'm like, they'll say, oh, you know about that project? Oh yeah, we talk about it all the time. And they're like, oh, they're caught off guard. And it's like, oh yeah, well, you know, we're doing this and we're doing that. And they start to open up and share. So if you have those challenging managers or even leaders, you need to work around and talk to other business units to get as much information, again, to come in and have that dialogue. If they're like, I don't have any time, then you're going to highlight and be concise on the points you want to make and how a person, a candidate will help them meet those needs.
I love that. So you're confident. I like how you're describing gathering your intel and getting your information. So it doesn't always have to be from the closed-lip person. But you're coming in, you're being concise, you're identifying challenges, and you're presenting solutions before they're telling you about the problem, before they're saying we have a gap. You're identifying the gap. And you're coming up with potential solutions, which means that, as you say, you've constantly got to be networking and building that pipeline internally and externally.
Absolutely.
So you have the networks and the connections to be able to offer somebody as a solution.
Absolutely. It's very important to your job. The whole point of being in talent acquisition is that you're a liaison of information. Not that, I go pretty deep, and that's because of my background and what I'm a curious person. Not every recruiter is the same, but guess what? Each person on the team provides certain expertise and talents. Their strengths is what's important to what brings you all together as a team. So one person could be very good at client management and they know how to schmooze, and they could do the worst recruiting job ever, but they know how to schmooze those people and make them feel good and bring credibility to that TA organization, because they're just like, I know it's hard. I know, it's hard for me to find people for you, but let me share with you this. And they do that, and they know how to do it very, very well. Then you have your analytics people. They know everything about the systems. They do recruiting, but they are just tuned into all the analytics, all the systems issues. What are the challenges? Are they integrated properly? And they're going to help, because they're going to ensure that we have all the data-driven insights to build out those dashboards using Tableau and using Slack to share with the clients and candidates real-time information. How many days we have taken to fill a position, how many people have declined our position, and looking at those reasons why. They're going to make sure that information is there. Then you have those on the team that are true headhunters. They know how to identify, they are sourcing gurus. They build relationships. They work around the clock. That's their high. They love communicating with various people, learning about businesses, and they know how to succinctly identify talent in a couple of hours. Forget about days, a couple of hours. They can bring top candidates in all the time. That's why your talent acquisition team has to be broad in their experiences, so that as you share and collaborate collectively, you're able to impact the business in such an enormous way. The business will start being your champion, and they will sponsor some of the, let's say you've got a limited budget, and there's a tool out there, let's call it Hire Tool, that can get your candidates immediately all the information. If they've seen that you've built a relationship with them and that they can count on talent acquisition to give them insight on what's happening within the business or in the industry, they're more than likely to help to sponsor those programs for you. So, and that's so important. So yeah, you're a ninja.
No, I love it. It's saying TA is not just there to provide a candidate for a specific role. It's really to help the business. Yes, you do that, but also you're able to add value by giving insights into the market, into the business, into what's going to add value. And I like what you said about in the beginning. I think it takes it back to something that I also really believe in, is find out what's valuable to your client and give them that, because then they value their relationship with you. And if you're part of a team where there's a strong analytics person and you're not a strong analytics person, but your client is, you work as a team to give your client what your client needs and what your client finds valuable.
Exactly. Your team has to be very flexible. The egos have to somewhat go away. We know everyone's good in what they do, and everybody brings value to the table. Your leader in TA has to manage the strengths of every person on the team and be able to leverage that out to the business. So if you have a recruiter who is struggling in one area, then you either switch out those recs to another recruiter that will immediately bring strength. That doesn't downplay that other recruiter, but they may be needed in an area that person was struggling with. And so you're going to rotate the relationships around. Now you may have a primary that focuses on one area. Let's say it's finance, and they know finance backwards and forwards, but you're going to have to be able to share that information with the rest of the team so that you can transition properly. And then when you're ready to put in another person into that area, there's so many data insights within your CRM or your ATS system. That's why data integrity is so important. And every company struggles with this. There are very few companies, major corporations, that have it down pat, because there are so many tools out there that you have to integrate into your ATS or CRM, because technology has changed. And your candidates, as well as your clients, are using their mobile devices, and they're getting intel just as fast as you're getting intel. So, you know, as my son will call it, like, they know where the merch is. He's got all these different things. He's years old too.
That's so cute.
I know where that is, and I know how to look that up. And, you know, people are very smart about what's important to them. So if they're looking for discounts, they know how to quickly get discounts. If they're looking for really building out their social media profile, they know exactly where to go. They're doing all sorts of things, and you have to go where they are and figure out how do you take that information and leverage it off to the business.
Love that, Chris.
Yeah.
I see Jen has popped up. Do you have, is it a poll? Is it a question? What is it, Jen?
It's all of the above. So we put out several polls this morning, and I thought especially the second part of it was extremely interesting. But just before we continue with the conversation, we had 43.8% of our people who answered our poll said that they're still employed full-time, with 12% saying that they're concerned about their careers returning to work, 12% saying I'm not concerned, and 31% saying I'm so numb to it all now.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
So it's something that has been continuing for a while and will continue for a while. So I think these emotions will continue to rise and fall. But the strategic recruitment has been extremely interesting. And if our audience would like to vote, we'll give you some time, I think, to the end of the program in about 10 minutes time. We'd love to see your feedback. And then we'll also send these questions in our email onto you, because these are questions you can ask yourself, your team, and as you prepare to see your clients. But we have a super interesting question from Ricky. Thank you, Ricky. He said that talent acquisition has evolved quite quickly as a function within organizations. What do you think is a critical skills gap or underdeveloped or critical skill that's needed that wasn't there a few years ago?
Actually, there are several skills that talent acquisitions specialists, recruiters, executive recruiters need. And that is the ability to use AI. Use AI to your advantage. There are some schools of thought that think that AI is going to take over recruiting and there's no need for a recruiter. That's so incorrect on so many levels, because you have to make decisions. So data-driven decisions is critical. The TA, specialist, recruiter, advisor, whatever that title may be, coordinator, has to know how to analyze data concisely and then be able to present it in such a way that is impactful and valuable to the organization. And in the areas of talent acquisition specialists, not everyone thinks that way, so it's a mindset that needs to change. You'll hear a lot about entrepreneurial mindset, and I love the title of your business, out of box thinking. It is really that. And learning from different areas of business, different talent acquisition specialists in your industry and outside of your industry, what it is that will help build and develop and push your organization to dominate in their core areas. So usually, like I said, they're looking at product and service quality, they're looking at innovation, and they're looking at how technology is going to make those changes. And so you have to understand where you fit when it comes to speed and quality. You know, we in time and we can put in all these other things, but it's about speed and quality. And you have to sit down with yourself and really say, do I have all the tools to make me more efficient? Can I bring in a quality product? I mean, our product happens to be people and their intelligence and the impact they make to the organization, that they provide leadership, initiative, drive, that they are flexible and adaptable, that they can pivot when the business pivots. Right now, everybody's pivoting. And you can't get caught up in, oh my gosh, this is happening to me. What do I do? But we are behind the scenes. We're saying that, right? But in the forefront, you know, there are a couple of tools and there are people that you need to speak to pull a small window of information together so that you know what your next step is. And so to me is changing your mindset and knowing that there is a plethora of data out there and tools out there, but knowing how to use it succinctly and then leveraging your insights to influence the business one way or the other, but it has to be aligned to the behaviors of the culture. So I know mine by heart because thank goodness our leaders got it down to 4. So it's like commit to win, own your role, build trust, and the last one is get better every day. And those things, what we have to do on a regular basis is keep those things in mind. Building trust, being transparent, sharing, even if you don't know, saying that I don't know, but let me see how we can work together to find a solution. Everything is about collaboration. There is no one person that has all the information and all the decisions. However, you need to work with a group of people to help identify those solutions and be, you have to be, I would say not a risk taker, but someone who is bold enough to put those solutions out there, whether they're popular or not, but put it out there. You never know. There are other people who will build on that and make it mold into something that will be great for the organization. And I think that's what's key.
I love that comment. Thank you so much. I'm going to jump back onto our socials, but I will be back soon within. If you have any more questions, now's the time to answer. We within the 15 minutes. Thanks,
yes,
audience.
I'm here for you. So
thanks, Jen. Yeah, so please do post any other questions that you have that you'd like Christine to answer. So Christine, I think the things that I'm hearing a lot are entrepreneurship, again, adding value, networking, learning new skills, you pivoting, living out the values of your organization and consistently seeking to network and create relationships with talent out there who live and who embody the type of culture that you're recruiting into and wanting to impact your organization. I'm just wondering, Chris, so I know right now you're the kind of person who, if you wanted to connect with talent out there, or if you wanted to set up a meeting with a manager who hadn't asked you for a meeting, people are saying yes to you.
Yes.
But how have you got to that point where, I mean, did you ever struggle? I mean, was it ever difficult for you?
Oh, yeah. It's definitely trial and error. You test and learn all the time. And even times when you think that you know you're going to get information, you might not get a dime because, like, again, those leaders, you don't know what is driving their temperament. And so you have to be able to learn from their, like I said, all of their teams that they're interdependent on, truly what the temperament is. And so once you get a pulse of that, and you know you're asking them to do something for you, and you know they have a lot going on their plate, you need to be able to come in and say, how can I help? How can I help? I have this information. How can I help? That way they'll say, oh, okay, come on in, let's talk. That is the way you get into the door. You have to be someone who has some sort of expertise that will help them solve their problem. Their problem is always going to be with people and in numbers, right? They're data driven. So when you go in, you're going to make sure you have your data points. You're going to be concise. You're going to paint a picture, and you're going to share what you can do or what the TA team can do. And it may be in partnership with compensation. It may be in partnership with legal. So just understand what their pain points are, or what are some of the things that they are excited about and they want to do more of. And you'll be able to kind of lead into those conversations with that type of, I call it armor, so that you're ready. And you will get ones that are just like, they don't like talent acquisition, they never served them well, and they feel like they've had these bad experiences. And that could have happened 10 years ago, but they're holding on to that. So you have to show them how you have changed the organization from a TA perspective. So when you go in with that type of manager or leader, you're going to show all the quick wins you've had, how you put systems in place, how you're using AI, that you're at the forefront of knowing what the competition is, what those other companies are doing. Here's where you see the gap in what we're doing, but we can quickly get there. We bring in this type of talent. You have the opportunity to drive those relationships and continue the narrative around talent acquisition and its credibility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love what you're saying, Chris. It's really, again, is partnering with those internal clients and stakeholders and saying, I'm as much as part of business strategy as you are.
Oh,
and
yeah.
here's how I'm seeing we can make this business successful, profitable, that you're really bringing valuable information to the table. And I know Ricky loves HR. I mean, loves AI and HR. But so I appreciate her question. But yeah, I think that is an essential skill and tool to be able to use in TA that wasn't necessarily there before. Chris, I'm also thinking, in the kind of war for talent and the role of the candidate becoming stronger, and us as companies needing to look at branding and look at the candidate experience, it's also about how to attract top talent.
Absolutely.
So the relationships to influence are not necessarily just internal and with managers. They're also about influencing candidates. And sometimes I'm sure with an organization like Macy's, I'm sure there's a lot of people who'd love to work there. But maybe you can also share with us, how have you built relationships with key candidates out there? How have you got yourself into a position that you can influence them to want to come to the meetups or to want to build a relationship with you? Yeah, how have you gone about that?
Yeah, you have to see what is hot and new in that area that they're in. So let's say if it's security, information security, you know that other companies have had breaches. Let's say yours did not. You need to share with them what are the key components within your organization that really, as much as possible, covers them from having those types of infiltrations within their organization and data breaches. And find out the tools that they're using now and how you're using. In our case, we're always looking at new tools and technologies, but we need key people to come in that have the vision to utilize those tools in the right way at the right time to get the right output. And so you really have to understand and look at that profile and say, what are they really telling me? In LinkedIn, sometimes you see a profile, sometimes you do not. And you have like things like Glassdoor, Indeed, like I said, HireTool. You use those tools so that you can understand where your candidates are in their career, and you have to really look at that experience and say, what's missing? You have some candidates that you think are stuck in one area, but when you know that company, you know their background, you know that title might stay the same, but they're actually doing a plethora of work and impact. So you have to know those businesses, know what type of value you have, that diamond in the rough. And all they need to do is get exposed on an enterprise level, or all they need to do is get more exposure to lead a team. So you have to understand what is necessary or needed in your organization, and then talking to those candidates to what they're looking for and what they're expecting. Now, like I said, there's a talent war. So there are candidates that have multiple opportunities with some great brand companies, and you have to share with them what their culture is like. Because I know if you work for, let's say, if it's Amazon, who's a direct competitor of ours, we know you live, eat, breathe, sleep Amazon, and it's not in the good way. They show you a lot of fancy things about what they can offer you, but you have to understand if you're a heavy family oriented individual, that might not be the type of culture you want to be in, because they're very driven, and there's nothing to take away from other companies that are driven. It's just that some companies know how to balance it better. So you're going to come in and say, yeah, we're very driven, just like Amazon. We do it this way, but you're only going to work in this area because we work smart. And you share that story and show them how you've been able to win in certain areas of the business that your CEO or your brand is showing up in the industry that they're in. So
nice.
Yeah.
So it's really studying the journey of a potential candidate from a work and life perspective, and figuring out the gaps for them and their next steps, and seeing how your organization can provide that even before they tell you.
Absolutely. And, there was a time when we used to ask about, well, what is your salary now? When we were trying to be bullnose on, we're going to only pay them X amount of dollars. That's not the market. You want to make sure that it's competitive. You don't want to be the brand that sticks it to your candidates, and that when they're hired, they do all this work. They're like in a body shop, and they get very little in return. That's not the reputation you want. So you want to make sure whatever you can, you want to be able to leverage how they can feel like they're being treated fairly, that they have the opportunity to grow, that they do have work-life balance, and that they can be rewarded in such a way that will help them stretch their abilities and make a major impact to the business.
Yes, absolutely. No, I love that, Chris. I see in the chat, Andrea was saying that she's had a lot of challenges with candidates declining offers over lockdown. So I don't know whether you've had the same kind of experience there where you are, or how lockdown has impacted. Yeah.
Again, it goes down, like right now, whether it's post COVID-19 or you're in it right now, everything is about branding, talent attraction, and it's cool. So how do you build your pipeline of people who like your product, or if they even know about your products? You have to find out what's missing and ask the question, why are you not taking on a position? We actually capture those data points, and we can share that with the hiring manager, because sometimes it could be in an interview process that something was said that made people, that turned them off. Or it could have been something in the process that was taking too long that they're saying no to. You have to be able to pinpoint that. We provide candidate surveys after every interview. And at every point of the workflow, we're asking those questions. Are you still interested? Why are you interested? Where do you want to go? What can a company like ours do for you? When you have that type of information, you'll know exactly how to kind of customize your responses so that it meets their needs. But if you have if you're having a lot of people who are declining, you need to start gathering that data insight immediately, whether it's automated or you're capturing it on a spreadsheet or a piece of paper to put on a spreadsheet. You're sharing that information with not only the hiring manager, but with their leaders, with your leaders, and you're going to come together and say, how do we solve this? We can't have this because we have needs and ROI that we have to hit. You got to find out what the gaps are, and then again, try to solve them.
Love it. So it's that data, that precious data.
Real data.
And I love what you do. Almost you get the candidate to tell you
Yes.
the sales pitch of why they should still be interested in the role. So I love that.
Yeah, and if you're not able to get that, then you have to look at yourself and ask, what was my relationship with them from beginning to end? Because if you're someone who says, "Oh, I have them in the pipeline, but I don't reach out to them at all," they have no skin in the game with you. They just don't.
Yeah.
They don't owe you anything. And so they're like, "Well, I haven't heard from you in 3 weeks." Yeah, I'm not interested. I want someone who values me, who's interested in me and where I'm going, not someone who's just trying to put a number in to say that they gathered my resume so that they got one. So you have to really build a relationship with those candidates and find out what they like. And candidates share you all types of information without you even asking. You put something out there and they tell you the story, and it's just up to you. You're listening to that and then identifying what's important to them, or you're just like trying to move to the next question, next question, next question. And I understand time is valuable, but you have to be very concise in what you're asking to get that picture very quickly so that you can engage with them throughout the process.
Love it, Chris. Love it.
And I just want to say we've got collaborations going on in the socials already. There's like people saying, "Oh, but let's do this and let's do this," and this is wonderful. I absolutely agree. I think data is queen. She is queen. She is queen. But we've got another question. We've only got 4 minutes to go, so we're going to have to be fast. As I mentioned before, we'll be sharing all of this detail, all the links and all the data in our emails afterwards. One last question will be from Brett. Thank you, Brett, for this wonderful question. Under circumstances such as these, where talent acquisition grinds to a halt, what projects have you seen offer value to business across your career? Ideas of where a team that would otherwise might sit idle could offer value?
Okay. So as I mentioned earlier on in this discussion that, I was working in IT technology on an enterprise level, but I've been able to work with a group of leaders so that they can advocate for me to help other businesses across the entity, Macy's entities. So I've worked in marketing, I've worked in logistics. Okay, I'm in technology. And they're like, "Well, why are you in logistics and marketing?" Because our systems impact what they do. And because I know how to assess candidates quickly, right? I have the tools to do that. So you could tell me I'm looking for a balloon artist and I'll be able to find a balloon artist. It doesn't matter what it is. So you're sharing that you provide value and you can pivot from technology, move to another area of the business. Now there has to be a need. You can't just kind of join in there. There are boundaries and protocols you have to follow, but your leaders are going to advocate that for you and say, "You know what? I think Christine would be good on some of the strategic workforce planning that we're doing because she has such great insights into our business to know, some of the things that we will need in order to meet this e-commerce initiative." Or it could be that we are challenged in marketing. I know in TA, they have done a hell of a job in branding. I wonder what they can do with our customer acquisition, since our customers are our candidates and our candidates are our customers. And so we understand the community enough to provide value and share insights too. And then also you just have to put yourself out there sometimes and say, "You know what?" You tell your boss, "You know what? I hear that they're doing more over in, let's say it's in leadership development. I'd be happy to help them build out some of that framework and test a few things, whether it's assessments or some other area." So there are ways in which you can share with the leadership how you can add value to the business without it being in your core functional area. So I hope that helps. We got 2 minutes. Unfortunately, I can't hear you, Jen.
Oh, that's me entirely, people. I am so sorry. I seem to have a huge problem here, and it doesn't seem to want to stop. So
Okay.
I'm hoping that you will forgive me if I go offline again and see if I can get you guys online. There you go. Is
Oh,
that
awesome.
better?
Yes.
Woo! Good heavens.
See how quick you are.
Awesome, Jen. Pivoting.
Yes.
Pivoting.
What I wanted to say, we're on 2:00. Thank you so much for joining us today. I wanted to say again, for us, Black Lives Matter. We stand with the United States of America. We wish you freedom. Thank you so much for joining us today. And to our awesome audience, thank you for being here. You'll receive an email from me later. And to Jane, my co-host, thank you again for being here, as you always are. Thank you, everyone, and goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks so much.
Take care.
Take care. Enjoy your day. Bye, everyone.
And I'll see you next time.